We thought we knew McLaren's secret sauce for tire management, but the truth? It's wilder than anyone imagined. We're talking about a potential game-changing technical trick hidden in plain sight that has rivals absolutely crying foul. And this isn't just paddock gossip anymore. New evidence has emerged, pointing to a shocking brake cooling philosophy that could be the real reason McLaren is suddenly untouchable on Sundays. How did no one see this coming? For weeks, maybe months now, the whispers have been getting louder. How is McLaren managing their tires so perfectly? While everyone else is sliding and suffering degradation, Norris and Piastri are just cruising, setting blistering pace late in stints. Their rivals? Absolutely scratching their heads. The first theory to gain traction was frankly a bit bonkers. Water in the tires. Yeah, you heard that right. The idea was McLaren was somehow introducing moisture into the inflation gas to cool the tires from the inside. Red Bull, bless their competitive hearts, were reportedly among the loudest voices pushing this. McLaren CEO Zak Brown's reaction? Pure gold. At Miami, he literally showed up on the pit wall with a water bottle labeled tire water. That's the kind of playful shade we live for. But while Zak was having a laugh, the FIA did look into the water in tires claim. And guess what? They found absolutely nothing untoward. The technical regulations, specifically Article 10.8.4, are crystal clear. Tires can only be inflated with air or nitrogen, and any process to reduce moisture is forbidden. Pirelli's stance? Just as firm. They supply dry air, end of story. So if it's not some sneaky water trick, what is it? That's the million-dollar question that's been driving rival teams absolutely insane. And thanks to some keen eyes and new photographic evidence from races like Saudi Arabia, the puzzle pieces are starting to fall into place. Let's zoom in on the rear brake assembly. This is where the real story begins. Last year, the MCL38 had a pretty standard solid carbon fiber fairing surrounding the brake disc. But the MCL39? They've cut windows into it. Not just on the outer rim, but on the face of the fairing too. At exactly the moment those new images surfaced, the speculation shifted, because behind those cutouts, there's another layer. A seemingly semi-permeable material that changes how heat moves around the brake assembly. This isn't a brand new concept in F1. Other teams, like Aston Martin, are also experimenting with materials to manage brake heat. But McLaren appears to be doing something different, something more effective. Rivals noticed. Oh boy, did they notice. Reports flooded in that teams, including Red Bull, were using thermal cameras, basically F1 heat vision, trained on the McLarens. And what they saw was astonishing. McLaren's rear brake drums were consistently cooler than theirs. Let that sink in. Cooler brakes means less heat transferring to the wheels and, crucially, to the tires. This prompted the FIA to take a very close look. After Miami, where McLaren's tire advantage was blindingly obvious, they singled out a McLaren for a forensic examination of its rear brake design. The initial indications? It's legal. The FIA is expected to confirm this, but they won't be giving out McLaren's blueprints, obviously. But just because it's legal doesn't make it any less brilliant or frustrating for the competition. Because while the dimensions of the brake drums are tightly controlled, how you cool them, the internal ducting, the materials used, that's where the innovation happens. And this is where a fascinating theory, put forward by a former McLaren Advanced Technology staffer, Martin Buchan, comes in. His background? Audi, Force India, Racing Point, and research into cutting-edge cooling tech, specifically phase change materials. And his theory? It's pure science fiction meets F1 engineering genius. But what are phase change materials? And how could they be giving McLaren this shocking advantage? The technical rabbit hole goes deep, and the implications for the rest of the season are enormous. Okay, let's break down this phase change material theory like we're dissecting a crucial race strategy. Think of those little ice packs you put in a cooler. They start solid, absorb heat from your drinks, and turn into liquid. While they're changing state from solid to liquid, they absorb a huge amount of heat without their temperature going up much. That's the core idea. Buchan's theory suggests McLaren might be using a similar principle, incorporating phase change materials into a shielded channel within the brake assembly. When the brakes heat up past a certain point, say during heavy braking into a corner, this material melts, absorbing that heat. Crucially, while it's melting, it acts like a heat sink, stopping the brake temperature from spiking even higher. Why does this matter so much? Because brake heat is the enemy of tire temperature management. When those carbon brakes glow red hot, That heat radiates outwards into the wheel rim, and from there, directly into the tire. The hotter the tire gets, the faster it degrades, the less grip you have, and the slower you go. Teams are constantly balancing this act. You need hot brakes for maximum stopping power, but not too hot, or you cook your tires. McLaren's potential trick allows them to have their cake and eat it too. Maintain optimal brake temps for performance while drastically limiting that crucial heat transfer to the rubber. This explains perfectly why McLaren's advantage is so pronounced in the race, especially in hot conditions or on tire-sensitive tracks like Miami. In qualifying, you do 1 or 2 laps, brakes don't get fully heat-soaked over time. In a race stint, lap after lap, the heat builds. If you have a mechanism to absorb that heat spike repeatedly, like a phase change material melting and then re-solidifying on straights when brakes cool, you gain a massive, compounding advantage. Remember that weird incident last year at the Hungarian GP? McLaren raced with uncovered sensor holes in their rear brake drums, holes only allowed in practice. The FIA quietly told them to cover them up, assuming it was an operational oversight. In retrospect, if they were experimenting with these materials, those holes could have been related to early testing or monitoring. It fits the timeline. This isn't just a technical detail. It has massive personal stakes for Lando and Oscar. It means they can push harder, for longer, when their rivals are being forced to back off to save their tires. It gives them options and strategy, the ability to undercut or overcut more effectively. It elevates them from contenders to genuine threats on race day. This kind of clever, boundary-pushing engineering reminds me of Mercedes' DAS system a few years back. An innovative solution, perfectly legal by the letter of the law, that gave them a temporary edge until rivals understood and the rules changed. Is McLaren's brake cooling trick their DAA's moment? And here's a juicy bit of speculation. Red Bull has had some unusual braking issues recently, including in Miami. My theory, they saw McLaren's thermal camera readings, realized they were onto something, and might be desperately trying to replicate or understand it themselves, maybe pushing their own systems too hard in the process. This wasn't just a technical race. This was personal. They hate not being the ones with the cleverest ideas. But the biggest question looming over the paddock right now is if the FIA has effectively rubber-stamped this clever brake design as legal, how quickly can rivals copy it? This isn't like copying a simple aero flick. It likely involves specialized materials and complex internal ducting that takes time, resources, and significant understanding. My mic drop prediction? McLaren holds a fundamental race day advantage thanks to this brake cooling philosophy that the rest of the grid won't fully replicate for at least several months, maybe even the rest of the season. While Red Bull might match them on a single qualifying lap, come Sunday, McLaren's ability to manage tire temps will keep them firmly in the championship fight, potentially stealing wins Red Bull thought were guaranteed. This is the huge news for McLaren, and it just flipped the script on the 2025 season. But will the FIA face pressure to review this? Will other teams find a loophole? The technical arms race just got a whole lot hotter. Or should I say cooler? The fallout from this revelation is just beginning, and you do not want to miss a second of it. If you want the inside line on every F1 drama, every technical battle, and every potential controversy, you need to join the F1 Panther crew. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now because the story is only getting more intense. Will Red Bull figure out McLaren's trick before it costs them the championship? Will other teams cry foul again, forcing the FIA's hand? And what other hidden innovations are lurking on the grid? We'll be breaking down all the angles, analyzing every development, and bringing you the unfiltered truth about this season-defining technical battle. Don't go anywhere. The next twist could be right around the corner. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep it pinned.